The Patriots fall to 1-3. We examine where things have gone wrong, but also find a few silver linings here on Pats Cast. Welcome to Pats Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Visit expressvpn.com/PatsCast to get 3 months off of a 12-month annual plan. Again, that is expressvpn.com/PatsCast. Patriots fall 30-13 against the San Francisco 49ers to drop to 1-3, and they are who we thought they were. And, you know, I think we all expected perhaps a 1-3 start, maybe an 0-4 start. I was chalking up a victory against the Seahawks game and them losing week 1 against Cincy, but the Patriots are who we thought they were, and they are where we expected them to ultimately be, 1-3 heading in to week 5 of the NFL season. And today's game against the Niners could have been a lot closer if it weren't for the errors that the Patriots made. I don't think anyone expected the Patriots to win this game against the defending NFC champions. However, they had opportunities to keep this game close. But with a team like this, with the limited talent that the Patriots have, without a real big shot quarterback out there behind center, the margin for error is very small, and the Patriots cannot afford to turn the ball over the way they have the last couple of weeks, particularly today. And that, unfortunately, starts with Ramondre Stevenson, who had his 4th fumble in 4 games. Patriots were able to get a nice red zone stop against the Niners, got the ball back, a chance to at least keep the game close with a drive down the field, and Ramondre fumbles it again and hands the ball back to the opposing team for the 2nd straight week, fumbling it for the 4th straight week. And we can't see that anymore. And we did see Gerard Mayo kind of bench Ramondre briefly, but he's also probably their best offensive player. So Mayo put Stevenson back out on the field. I think if Belichick were head coach in this situation, we wouldn't have seen Stevenson the rest of the game. However, we know this is a new regime. The Patriots are working with what they have, but can't be turning the ball over on the ground, and you can't be turning the ball over in the air. That is the hope of having a guy like Jacoby Brissett out there, who is a borderline starting quarterback in this league, probably the 32nd, 33rd best player, a bridge guy until Drake May is ready to get out there, but you feel comfortable out there because, yeah, he's going to be very conservative, but he's not going to turn the football over. Well, Jacoby Brissett was accountable, at least, for the other 2 turnovers that happened from the Patriots this game. The first came on an interception, a pick 6 by Fred Warner, a spectacular play by Fred Warner, where Jacoby did have 2 other wide receivers wide open, including Jalen Polk in space, who probably could have, if he had burned one guy after the catch, could have run the length of the field for a touchdown. Jacoby missed him, didn't even see Fred Warner there, ends up in a pick 6. And that was essentially the game at that point, and the Patriots have to abandon their run-first game plan, and they fall behind early, and then we're back to where they were against the Jets last week. And then Jacoby also, like I said, was accountable for the other turnover. You don't blame him too much for this one. It was a strip sack from behind by Nick Bosa, but at the same time, you don't want your quarterback continuing to turn the ball over. And that raises the question, if Jacoby Brissett is not going to take care of the football, why not play Drake May? Because that is the whole point. Yes, I know you want Drake May to not deal with that patchy offensive line. I get that argument, but at the same time, the other argument was Jacoby takes care of the football. Drake May, yeah, he might have some chunk plays out there, but he's probably going to turn the ball over a handful of times each game. Well, that's what Jacoby did today. So I'm not going to talk about Drake May too much. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about that this week. And in the coming weeks, it sounds like he will not be the starter next week. We were all kind of penciling in that week 5 matchup against the Miami Dolphins, especially without having Tua out there. But at least according to Gerard Mayo in the post game, they are sticking with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback as of this moment in time. But we'll see. Maybe that'll change in the coming days. But overall, Jacoby's 2nd consecutive game where you're not too happy with his performance. Yeah, he was mediocre the first couple of weeks, but overall, I don't think it was worse than the Jets, but 19 of 32, 168 yards, did have a passing touchdown, an interception, of course, with Fred Warner, and a 71 passer rating. And the issue with Jacoby Brissett, like I said, is still processing. And he's not seeing open receivers, dealing with a lot of pressure, certainly, but not seeing the open receivers and just kind of holding on to the football too long. And there are opportunities just to get rid of the football, throw it at the checkdown's feet or a crossing receiver or something. And he did do it a couple of times when he was facing pressure, so you have to give him some credit for those. But overall, it's just the game moves too fast for him at this point at the quarterback position. And is that going to be an improvement for Drake May? I think so. Drake May has been much better at processing than I thought he would be, going through his progressions, getting rid of the football quickly, willing to take the check down, unlike Jacoby Brissett, who is a little bit hesitant, wants to get some of those big plays when he's just not the type of quarterback that can make those throws. But overall, that is the issue with Jacoby Brissett. And if he's turning the ball over, I think we have to see Drake May sooner rather than later. But you can't lay the blame entirely on Jacoby. Yeah, we know the offensive line issues. I'll get to that in a moment. But how much of this is the coaching? And not necessarily Jerod Mayo, but because I think if we're looking at the defensive side of the football, and certainly special teams, Jerod Mayo did a good job coaching today. And we know Alex Van Pelt is essentially in charge of that offense. So I think a lot of the blame continues to fall on Alex Van Pelt. A lot of, as usual, unimaginative play calling out there, with exception to that one play, the 4th and short, where they ran a play action instead of running the ball, had Austin Hooper wide open for a touchdown. I thought that was a great play call by Alex Van Pelt. But other than that, really predictable play calling. And Patriots, early in the game, they had a 4th and 3 opportunity where, hey, if you convert there, then, you can keep this a close game, even have a shot to take the lead. They didn't choose to take it on really what was, I think, the 4th and 3 that modern NFL coaches tend to always take. And if you're not going to go for it on 4th down, well, then you don't throw it on 3rd and 3. At least with this offense, stand in the shotgun, see if you can catch the defense off guard, and run the ball, run a draw, halfback draw, do something. They threw the ball on 3rd and 3 and thought, okay, maybe they'll run it again on 4th down or throw it again, and they didn't. And I thought that was a blown opportunity there by Alex Van Pelt. Certain calls like 4th and 5 late in the game, the number one option I would assume was a go route to Jalen Polk. And Jalen Polk ended up catching the ball but didn't get his right foot down. Really just an incredible play by Jalen Polk, but wasn't enough. Would have been like a 40-yard chunk play. Was actually a pretty good throw by Jacoby Brissett. But at the same time, you had KJ Osborne wide open, and that could have been a 1st down on 4th and 5. And that's what I mean about not just the play calling, but some of the ways that Alex Van Pelt is scheming up the offense. And Taylor Kyles was asking Alex Van Pelt about that this past week, about, hey, when Jacoby Brissett is reading the routes, is he going high to low or is he going low to high? Because it seems like with the pressure that he's getting, you want him to go low to high and be able to get rid of the football quickly. And Alex Van Pelt, basically his answer was, yeah, this is a week where we're talking about getting rid of the football quickly, getting the ball out of Jacoby Brissett's hand right away. But I didn't see that a lot today. I saw it a little bit, but overall, it looks like Jacoby Brissett is reading the deep routes and then going to the checkdowns. I mean, the checkdown is typically last, but the crossing routes, the quick throws, the easy plays that a quarterback can make. But by the time he's reading those lower routes, the defense is to him, and he either has to get rid of the football, take a sack, or make some jailbreak type play, and it just isn't working out. Whereas, like, if this were Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels out there, they would just say, all right, we're just going to dink and dunk the entire game, force the defense to play in, and then we can think about going high a little bit. But right now, with this offensive line, we got to get rid of the football quickly, and maybe they did that a little more than last week, but it wasn't enough. And I think a lot of that falls on Alex Van Pelt, because overall, there were some silver linings coming out of this game, and I lay the offensive blame on Alex Van Pelt at this point, and not necessarily Jerod Mayo, because he is delegating so much of that responsibility to Alex Van Pelt. And if you look at Jerod Mayo, yeah, the defense really struggled quite a bit in the first half and a little bit in the second half, but they really patched things up. They made some adjustments out there that made life a lot easier for that defense, and at least gave the offense a shot to make it a ball game in the second half. We remember I think it was the first quarter, the Niners essentially had 3 touchdowns on one drive. It was pathetic, and 2 of those plays were called back, and then Brock Purdy threw it up to George Kittle, who was able to high point it against 3 Patriots defenders who were all 6 to 8 inches shorter, and they ultimately got a touchdown out of that drive. But Brock Purdy was playing like a maniac, like a Patrick Mahomes maniac out there, extending plays with his legs, a lot of the same stuff we saw from Aaron Rodgers last week, and I was thinking, oh, here we go again, but Purdy was not extending plays with his legs in the second half like he was in the first half, and the defense ultimately, I think, did a lot better job. Yeah, there was the first drive of the second half where the Niners went right downfield, but it was essentially one big chunk play, a great catch by Jawan Jennings that did that. But overall, the defense looked a lot better in the second half. Jabril Peppers was all over the place. He had an end zone interception. The offense just needs to keep games closer, have longer drives, give the defense some time to stay rested, stay fresh, and stay engaged. And I think this is a defense that if the game is close, you can rely on, but you hit a certain point where it's like, well, the offense isn't going to do anything. We're getting tired. It's kind of hopeless out there. Patriots defense, yeah, they did not look great with Brock Purdy extending plays with his legs on 3rd and long early in the game, but they did stop him twice from getting in the end zone their first 2 series of the game, and then it was ultimately the turnovers that cost the Patriots. But this is a defense that I think if you keep games close, they have a shot, but it really all just falls on the offense to at least extend drives long enough to give the defense some rest so we can get the best out of them. But you also have to remember the defense is working with a lot of backups at this moment in time. Kyle Duggar went out with an injury. We know Jawan Bentley is out, which means Kyle Duggar has the green dot. He's the one with the microphone in his ear, the speaker in his ear, really running the defense out there. He goes out with an injury. We know Christian Barmore might miss the rest of the season. They traded away Matthew Judon. I think that defense, with the second half adjustments, there is a lot to be encouraged about with all the injuries that they have. Keon White was not setting the edge the way he should in the first half. They played him a little bit more inside in the second half. He looked a lot better. I really give Jerod Mayo and DeMarcus Covington a lot of credit for some of the adjustments that they made out there, but you're not going to win games, especially against teams like the San Francisco 49ers, if the offense can't generate anything and you're turning the ball over, and that really ultimately is the story of this game. But I think the defense was a lot more encouraging in the second half, and there's something to be optimistic about going forward, especially after how poorly they played against the New York Jets last week and in the first half this week against the Niners. But as I mentioned, injuries are an issue. Kyle Duggar went out with an ankle injury. They lost Caden Wallace, who came in as a tight end, essentially an additional offensive lineman. He got hurt and was eventually carted off with an ankle injury. So you don't have Caden Wallace, who was our left tackle last week, not this week. And then David Andrews, the biggest loss of all, headed to the locker room early in the game with a shoulder injury and then was eventually ruled out, which meant Nick Leverett had to come in at backup in the center role. And considering the situation, you got to see the film and how well he ultimately played. But I thought Nick Leverett did a lot better out there than I was expecting. But you want your captain out there, David Andrews, huge loss, and we hope that this is a quick recovery and not something that's going to keep him out for an extended period of time, because, this is an offensive line that still doesn't have Vidario Lowe back at left tackle. They got Sidy So back today at left guard, but ultimately, the injuries have been the biggest issue for an already inferior NFL offensive line, and that O-line today gave up 10 quarterback hits and 6 sacks to Jacoby Brissett. Like I said, they had a new starter at left tackle, Demontre Jacobs, their fourth starter in 4 weeks. It's really hard to read his performance going against a guy like Nick Bosa, but from what I saw, he was consistently getting beat out there. Layden Robinson really struggling at right guard. Offensive line also raises the question to whether or not you want to put Drake May out there anytime soon. There was a report that came out from Ian Rappaport this morning saying he's still a ways away. He's still only getting about 30% of the first team reps in practice, and we're not going to see Drake May for a little bit. Do I believe that report? Probably, because Gerard Mayo reiterated that Jacoby Brissett is our starter as of right now after the game. So I don't think we're going to see Drake May next week. If we don't see him next week, we're probably not going to see him the following week against another good defense, the Houston Texans. Then I think, what's the next game? I think it's the game in London against the Jaguars. Is that the game you want Drake May to debut? I don't know, but the offensive line, I think, might have to patch together at least a game or two where they look somewhat solid, somewhat healthy out there, and then they'll make the decision about Drake May, unless Jacoby Brissett goes down with an injury, which there were 2 or 3 times once again today where I didn't know if he was going to get back up. So there's always that to factor in, but as of right now, it doesn't seem like Drake May will be starting anytime soon. So, like I said, the mistakes overshadowed the silver linings in this game, but I was happy with the way that the defense played, particularly Jabril Peppers. I love the adjustments that Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington made with the defense in the second half, but we all know the issues with the offense. Special teams was spectacular today. Their best game of the season by far, and they had a pretty good game week 1. Joey Slye hit 2 long field goals, including a 63-yard kick before halftime that looked long enough that like if he was kicking 70 yards, it would have been good. So very happy with the decision to pick Joey Slye over Chad Ryland. It's worked out perfectly so far, other than the block kick, which isn't really his fault. Bryce Behringer, of course, one of the best punters in the league, getting a ton of action, always doing a good job out there. Hard to say anything bad about Bryce Behringer. And then, of course, there was a forced fumble on the first kickoff of the second half that was able to keep the Patriots in the ball game, at least briefly, and get them back into it. So that was great to see. So special teams deserves an A+ today. Defense probably deserves a B- because of how much they struggled in the first half, but because I am encouraged about the second half adjustments that they made, and the offense as a whole gets a D- F+. So there you have it. That's the Patriots right now. They are who we thought they were. They are 1-3. They do have a winnable game next week against the Miami Dolphins. With all the struggles, without having Tua Tagovailoa out there, that is a real opportunity for them to improve to 2-3. A lot of winnable games on the schedule this year. I mean, even teams like the Texans, not super consistent. The Jets, we know what happened last week, but they haven't been the most consistent. So that might be a winnable game. Jaguars, certainly a winnable game. The Rams do not look like the Rams. They play them later in the season. A lot of games that the Patriots could win, whether they have Jacoby Brissett or Drake May out there. We knew the schedule would be tough early on, and this is about what we expected from this team. So if the offensive line can start to patch things up a little bit, if they are confident of putting Drake May out there, if the defense continues to improve and build on what they did in the second half today, and with the good special teams, there's still hope for this Patriots team. But right now, things are looking pretty bleak when you look at that offense. And as I said, I think a lot of that blame falls on Alex Van Pelt for the unimaginative play calling and just the weird progressions that he's making his quarterbacks go through when they have no time to throw the football. A lot of issues there. But if the Patriots can at least have a mediocre offense, as I've said for the last 6 months, I think the defense might be good enough, even with these injuries. Maybe they can end up being an okay team when all's said and done, but they have a long way to go before we get to that point. But that's it for this episode of Pat's Cast. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'll see you throughout the week.
Slipping through our hands, quarterback shuffle, ain't no fun. feels like a snare. Rookie hope streams running thin, praying for a miracle.